Our theme for this morning's talk is atonement. Atonement is another of those central concepts in A Course in Miracles, and is also one that is frequently misunderstood. Let us start with one of the key misunderstandings of atonement. It is not to be read at one-ment. Right? That's a typical New Age term, which is not what the Course means by atonement. In the Course's context, at one-ment would be our state in heaven. Our reality is spirit, our reality is Christ, being the one Son that God created one with him. We are at one with our source. All right. Atonement in the Course is what undoes the belief that we have separated from our source, thereby releasing our mind to being what it always was, which is at one with God. In the Course, atonement can be best defined as correction. It is the Holy Spirit's correction for the ego's misbelief that the separation from God has actually occurred. We're told in the Course that the ego speaks first, is always wrong, and the Holy Spirit is the answer. So the ego speaking first is proclaiming itself God's Son, now separated and on its own, existing on its own, and again, that belief is the ego. The answer to that is the memory of our oneness as Christ that we took with us into the dream when we first began to sleep and dream of separation. And that memory is what the Course really means by the Holy Spirit. And the heart of the Holy Spirit is this atonement principle. Right? If we are still linked through this memory with our reality as spirit, if we are still connected with the love of God and our identity as Christ, then we cannot be separate from it. So that this memory of who we are as Christ is the atonement. It's the thought that says, this, once again, the separation from God never occurred. So once we redefine the problem as the mind's belief in the ego, and redefine the solution as being the mind's belief in the Holy Spirit by accepting the atonement, we are ready to understand this very, very important principle in the Course that is first enunciated in Chapter 2, but then is repeated all the way through, that the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. This idea of accepting the atonement is really our one function. In heaven, our function is to create, simply by being an extension of God's love. In this world, our function is to forgive, or to heal, or to accept the atonement, all different ways of expressing the same thought. Acceptance of the atonement, actually in the Course, is really seen as the consummation of the process of forgiveness. It is the consummation of the process of continually choosing miracles instead of grievances. It is the ultimate healing. It is the ultimate recognition that everything the ego taught us is false, and everything the Holy Spirit or Jesus has taught us is true. So the atonement is simply the correction. Right? It is the undoing of the mind's belief that the ego spoke truth, namely that the separation has occurred. It is looking at the ego and quoting the lines to ourselves from the Course where Jesus says that we should resign as our own teacher, for we have been badly taught. It is, in essence, firing the ego as our teacher and choosing Jesus or the Holy Spirit as our teacher. And when we choose them, we are choosing to accept the atonement. Right? What this means in our everyday life, by accepting the atonement, which is that the separation never happened, is I correct all of my misperceptions that you, whoever the you is, the object of my special love or the object of my special hate, you are not the source of my discomfort. You are not the source of my disease. You are not the source of my lack of peace. You are not the source of my feeling the absence of God's love. If all of these are my experience, it can only be because I chose against the love of God. I chose to have the ego be my teacher and its thought system of separation and attack be my salvation. And I've chosen to look at Jesus and his message of forgiveness and basically say, get lost. This is not what I want. I want to preserve my individual self and my identity. And because of that, there is no place in my mind for the atonement. There's no place in my mind for forgiveness. And there's no place, Jesus, in my mind for you. This, of course, just reinforces our guilt from the original thought that we told God there's no place in my mind for you either. So that we apply the principle of the atonement. We choose to continue to practice our daily lessons of accepting the atonement by recognizing that I am not separate from anyone that I heretofore had seen as outside of me. Right? That indeed we are not separate, even though we are separate in forms and on the level of the body. We are separate only. We are only separate in form, but we are not separate on the level of the mind. On the level of the mind, we are all the same. One ego, one Holy Spirit, one decision maker. And it's in recognizing the universal sameness of all of God's seemingly separated sons that we come to practice the acceptance of the atonement until that one glorious day when we recognize once and for all that the Holy Spirit has spoken only truth and the ego has spoken only lies. In that moment we have accepted the atonement, the ego's dream is undone, we are in the real world, and then God reaches down and lifts us back unto himself.